He's the only U.S. politician who served as a Navy frogman and a professional wrestler. He calls himself America's patriot and crusader for truth. He's the former Minnesota Governor Jesse Ventura, speaking about President Obama, about our failing government, and about the truth behind who killed John F. Kennedy. It's all next on Politicking. Welcome to Politicking with Larry King, our guest, the former independent governor of Minnesota, an old friend, Jesse Ventura. He was host and executive producer of Conspiracy Theory with Jesse Ventura. That was on True TV. He's a best-selling author, and his new book is They Killed Our President, 63 Reasons to Believe There Was a Conspiracy to Assassinate JFK. I know a lot about this, and I'll get to that a little later, but first, some current things. What are your thoughts on what's been going on in Washington with shutdowns and debt ceilings?
I think the shutdown's pathetic, Larry. I think that here's my big question. Since the government shut down now, let's keep track of the number of days. We shouldn't have to pay taxes then, should we?
Good idea, Jesse.
You know, if they shut the government down, then we should lose our tax obligation, because what are we paying for then?
There's something I don't understand. We passed a health care law.
Yeah.
The Supreme Court said it's a law.
Yeah.
They now don't want to obey the law.
Exactly.
Why? Why can you not obey a law?
Again, that's the Democrats and the Republicans, Larry. I can't answer for them. My belief is that the American people should vote them all out of office.
All
of them. And the problem is, though, don't elect a Democrat or Republican to replace them. Maybe this will wake the country up, that it's time, like my previous book, The Democrats and the Republicans. Maybe it's time, Larry, this will wake the country up to stop electing them.
Do you think we will ever see an independent president? Really?
Me.
Oh, you might run again?
Well, I'll know tomorrow because I want Howard Stern as my running mate.
You're going to ask Howard?
Yeah, I already have.
All right.
We've already talked on occasion, and he's considering, and we'll find out tomorrow whether he'll go forward with me.
What would be your plank?
Mine would be simple, and I'll win with it. If I run, I will offer the people of the United States the first opportunity to elect a president who does not belong to a political party since George Washington. He is our only president who did not belong to a political party at all, and this would give the American people an opportunity to make history again.
And we used to have multiple. We had the Whig, the Federalists. Right? There wasn't.
Why have any parties? They're nothing but gangs. That's all they are. I don't belong to any of them. Elect a president that belongs to no political party. And I believe, Larry, you could win off that alone, especially now in light of this government shutdown. That's what scares me, Larry. All the pieces are falling into place for me.
We taped this a week earlier, so the shutdown may be over. Do you think we'll learn from it?
Learn what?
Learn not to do it again.
Well, they won't.
Well, you got to change the makeup then.
Yeah, they won't learn from it, obviously, because they care more about, I mean, like you said, it's the law. And now they want to break the law. Well, in my book, I give many things in there where the laws were broken, like the fact that a crime scene, we all know from watching TV, they put the yellow tape and no one's allowed in there till forensic has gone over it, and then they take the tape down. Well, President Lyndon Johnson broke the law. He immediately had the limousine removed from Dallas, sent up, and Monday morning it was being refurbished in Michigan.
I'm going to get...
Why do we allow our elected officials to be above the law? They should have to abide by the same laws we do.
I'm going to get to your book later.
I know, but I was just using that as an example.
And maybe something you don't know that I can relate to you.
Okay.
It's possible, Jesse. I might be able to teach you something.
Larry, you know a lot of stuff that I don't know.
Anything you like about the president?
Barack Obama?
Yeah.
President Obama? I think that I like him. I like that the fact he's our first African-American president. I love that. I never thought I'd see that in my lifetime, that we would have a black man president. I love that aspect. I just wish that he would have held true to his convictions of what got him elected, because he seemed to abandon, once he got in office, everything that he said he was going to do. He was going to close Gitmo. He was going to end the wars. None of those things have happened.
He ended Iraq. He's ending Afghanistan. There's an end date. He did end Iraq.
He did?
You don't, what, you're fighting in Iraq? Who's fighting in Iraq?
Private by the United States government. Though. How do you know?
Well,
how do you know?
Well, I don't know.
There you go. What are they there for then? Why are they there?
You're saying he's still carrying on a war? You're not saying it.
Not officially carrying it on, but you know, whether or not there's still hostilities and there needs to be American presence there, we're going to be there for the next 20 years, Larry. Why are we still there? Pull us out.
What do you make of the Tea Party?
I try not to make nothing of them. They originally were a good concept until the Koch brothers took control of them, and now they're nothing but a right-wing arm of the money people who want to bring the Republicans even farther right than they already are.
Well, the Republicans appear to be in trouble. There's a definite breakage in that party.
Yeah.
Where's the solution to that? Were you ever a Republican? What were you?
Nothing, never.
You were never a Republican?
I was never Republican. I was never Democrat. In fact, if you go back, Larry, and I know you'll remember this because you're old enough, I voted for John Anderson.
If you John well.
Way back in the 80s. I've never voted for Democrats or Republicans my entire life. I find an alternative to vote for.
John Anderson was a terrific man.
Yes.
Yeah, he was a great...
Most third-party people are people that break off from the two gangs.
You were a veteran. What did you make of the way Syria was handled? We eventually avoided conflict.
Well, I didn't like the fact of the hypocrisy of America. We're going to go to war over chemical weapons, right? Right? Excuse me, what's napalm? That's a chemical weapon we've been using for 60 years. It just burns you real quick. I guess that's humane.
But we used it in a war, supposedly not against civilians.
What?
Well, I'm just saying, what? I'm just saying.
No, we didn't use it in a war. Vietnam was never a war. It was never declared.
Okay.
So we used it against civilians. Civilians died because of napalm. So, and let me get back to on track here. That was just a red herring to get the people to back another war. The problem is we're a war culture now. We have to be at perennial war, it seems. We've been at war my entire life if you count the war on drugs, and that's a war too. 20,000 Mexicans died last year. But getting back to where I want to go on this, it wasn't for that reason. They want to run a pipeline through Syria, and Assad's not being cooperative, so that's why they need to overthrow his government so that they can run that pipeline through.
You trust no one, right? You trust no one.
Yes, I trust certain people.
But you see things, when you see a situation, you see what was behind that.
I try to look because, Larry, my government's lied to me so often. I mean, let's look at recent years. They lied about weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. They lied that Iraq was tied to al-Qaeda. They were not. They lied about the rescue of Jessica Lynch. They lied about the murder of Pat Tillman. The lies go on and on and on. So what's happened is the government has no credibility with me anymore.
Do you think Putin outflanked us?
I think he put himself, in a good position on this thing because Putin came out as the man of peace.
But he brought the deal. But if the end result is okay...
That's okay.
That's okay, right?
That's okay.
So what's the difference if he did it?
Absolutely. I'm tired of these wars. Clearly so are the majority of Americans now because I heard the calls to Congress were running over 300 to 1, opposing any military action
Everyone read that
in
wrong.
Syria. And finally, maybe the American people are waking up. If we wouldn't have got involved in all these wars that we've been in, we could have health care triple over. We could all have the best. And that's what gets me, too. These congressmen and senators, they have 4 options on health care they can choose from. We don't even have one. How dare them get anything that an average citizen can't get?
You were a Navy SEAL.
A Navy frogman, that's correct.
But you sound like a peacenik.
I am.
And most people would assume that frogmen would be gung-ho militarist nationalists.
I was when I was 18 to 24 years old. I'm now 62.
What changed you?
Watching what happens, watching my country at perennial war, and not one of these wars accomplish a thing. It's like Colonel L. Fletcher Prouty said. There was a meeting that took place after Japan by the 4 leaders of Stalin, Chiang Kai-shek at the time, because Mao wasn't in yet,
Churchill
and Truman. And they all made an agreement at that time that all wars would be fought in third world countries and there'd be no direct objective the military could achieve in which to declare victory. It's true. Every war in my lifetime has been in a third world country and there's been no objective that can be achieved to declare victory. I'm tired of war. I'm sick of going to war. I'm sick of us spending. Larry, we spend more on defense than the top 25 countries combined, and 26. And 25 of them are our allies. Why do we need to spend all this money on defense? Let's cut defense spending.
Hard not to argue with you, Jesse. You were a supporter, I guess, of the Occupy Wall Street movement.
Yes.
It seemed to, what happened to it?
I don't know. I just went down there because I'm a supporter of the First Amendment, Larry. And the First Amendment says you used to have the freedom to petition your government and protest. You don't now. Now they passed a law, they can arrest you for that.
I think I know where you're going to go with this. What did you make of the NSA surveillance?
Well, to me, let me put it this way. If I become president, the first two pardons I will do will be that guy and Bradley Manning. Snowden and Manning would receive presidential pardons from me. Because anyone out there that is a whistleblower on government wrongdoing is a hero. And yet we're going to put Bradley Manning in prison. And what was the first thing shown? A helicopter gunning down innocent civilians, murdering them. The person that carried the message is going to jail, and the people that killed are walking free. But you know who the only person that said that? Cornel West.
Yeah.
He said it, and I say it. He and I get along great.
Obama said about Snowden, though, all right, if he did the right thing, why not come home and face a trial and bring the story public rather than hiding?
Well, because do you really think with our government he'd get a fair trial?
Well, you suspect everything, right? You don't believe anyone.
No, I just think that in a situation where it's national security and at that high level, he ain't going to get a fair trial here. I don't believe he would. How come we haven't tried any of the guys at Gitmo? How come they've been held for over 10 years and never charged with a thing? Not one of them has seen the light of day of a trial. By the way, that's another thing I'd do as president. I would immediately make contact with Fidel Castro, and I would inform him that within 1 to 2 years, we're giving you back Gitmo, because that's a piece of property that belongs to Cuba.
You got to get in touch with Raul.
I'd get in touch with Fidel, because I know Fidel and he's still alive, and I'd like to talk to him again. He was an interesting person to talk to.
I would love to have interviewed him. I guess I know the answer to this. What do you think of drones?
Drones? Flying over the United States of America?
Or anywhere, killing people.
I think it's horrible, because whatever happened to trials and convictions and innocent until proven guilty? With drones, you're just killed. Who gave the president the right to murder people without a trial in this country? Where did that come from?
When we come back,
Patriot Act?
When we come back, I'm going to try to get Jesse Ventura to have an opinion on something. It's a very difficult interview when someone is so mamby-pamby, skirts the middle, and tries to avoid every answer. We'll be right back. We're back with Jesse Ventura, his new book, They Killed Our President. Before I ask about it and some other things, you are joining our little network here, Aura?
Yes, I am, Larry. As you know, my last book, I saw you come out of retirement, and I thought something had to inspire this. And in talking to the people here, lo and behold, everything moved forward, and Aura got in contact with me, and we worked it out. We've dotted the I's and crossed the T's. The contract is signed, and as soon as I'm done with this book tour, we'll be moving full forward on what I hope will be called Internet-Free America, because I'm doing it from Mexico over the American border so that drones don't shoot me and I'm not put in prison for what I talk about in this country.
Let's hope we don't backstab you at all.
Remember Radio Free Europe?
Sure did. I broadcast on Radio
There you
Free.
go.
Okay.
I'll be doing the same thing back here.
Okay, now the new
far
book.
reaches of Mexico.
It's still in politics, and we're looking forward to that. Jesse Ventura is coming to Aura.
Remember the mystique on Wolfman Jack, how they said he had to broadcast from Mexico because they wouldn't allow him here? That's the hook.
He died.
I got to go to Mexico.
He was a great guy.
I know.
All right, Jesse Ventura's new book, They Killed Our President, 63 Reasons to Believe There Was a Conspiracy to Assassinate JFK. Now, I know a lot about this because I knew Jim Garrison well, the district attorney in New Orleans who tried Clay Shaw. He showed me a lot of evidence that was not introduced. I've always had an open mind on this. When did you begin to question this?
Well, I was 12 years old when President Kennedy was murdered, and then, unfortunately for me at that age, about a year and a half later, Ed Sullivan had on the Beatles, and the world changed for all us teenagers, the Beatles and the Stones. So I paid no attention until I actually got out of the military, and I went to 1 year of junior college, and while I was at junior college, Mark Lane came there and spoke, and I listened to him. And that's when I dawned on me, you mean, wait a minute, there's people that are saying it isn't what the government said? You know, there's people out there questioning the Warren Commission.
Mort Saul.
Exactly. And so what really did it, believe it or not, was pro wrestling. In the mid-1980s, wrestling had already been 26 regional territories where you drove to the towns. When Vince McMahon took it national with cable TV, all of a sudden, we're no longer driving to towns, we're flying all over the country. Well, Larry, you know as well as I do, when you fly a lot, there's a lot of dead time. You sit in airports, you sit on planes. So I, at that point, started reading every book I could get my hands on the Kennedy killing, because to me, it was way more intriguing than reading Vince Flynn or Clancy or any of them, because their work is just their imagination and fiction based on what may be somewhat truthful on that. But this is real life where the characters are real in this. Everything really happened. And I found the Kennedy killing to be so intriguing, all the different aspects of behind the scenes of what went on, that I read every book I could get my hands on. And the reason I wrote this book, Larry, is really I wrote this for personal reasons. And that's this: for whatever it's worth, 100 years from now, when I'm gone, I want the world to know that the 38th governor of Minnesota did not believe the Warren Commission and did not believe what the government said in the murder of our president.
Why would all those distinguished members, some pretty good, Gerald Ford was a hell of a nice guy, I knew him. Why would those distinguished members of the Warren Commission rush to judgment?
I'm not sure that they rushed to judgment.
Oh, they came out pretty fast.
Right, but I think there was evidence kept being withheld from them by the FBI. If the evidence didn't go to Oswald, the Warren Commission never saw it. And one case in point, Mr. Newman, who I met during my TV show, he's the guy you'll see on the Zapruder film lying on the ground covering his children. He was physically the closest man to the fatal headshot. Eyewitness, saw the whole thing. The Warren Commission never even talked to him, he told me.
He said it came from the knoll, right?
He said it came over his shoulder, which was behind the knoll.
You admit Oswald was shooting?
No.
Oh, well, then you're wrong.
No.
Okay.
I don't necessarily, because I don't think no, I'm not wrong.
Well, let me bring you up something.
I'll cover it here. Okay. He could not make it to the lunchroom and buy a Coke in the length of time before the officer and the building guy got in there.
Explain this to me.
And there was a witnesses.
I just explained this one thing to me.
All right.
I interviewed the policeman who arrested Oswald in the movie theater after Tippit. You agreed he shot Tippit? No. You don't think? Okay.
No. You know why I don't agree that? Wait, let me explain. There were shell casings on the ground there. Oswald was picked up with a revolver. You're saying he shot Tippit, emptied his shells by the body, and then ran?
All right.
He was shot with an automatic, not a revolver.
To tell you one thing, and then you respond, because I'm going to back you in certain ways here, but this is something I'm involved with.
All right.
I interviewed the police sergeant who arrested Oswald in the movie theater.
In the movie theater.
And Oswald said only one thing in the drive down to the police station, and he said it twice. I'm a patsy. I'm a patsy. If you're a patsy, that means you were set up, you were somehow involved. Jim Garrison told me there was a guy hired to fly a plane into Dallas to pick up someone who fit the description of Oswald and fly him out of the country. That man never showed up. What does he mean by patsy?
Well, what he means by patsy...
Why does he mean by patsy?
Oswald was involved in our intelligence community. And Oswald, when he got picked up, I think he knew why he was getting picked up out of it, because... Okay, let me say this to you, Larry.
Patsy's an interesting word. It's not saying I'm innocent.
Wait. Yeah, a patsy. Exactly. That means I'm being set up here.
Right.
That's not a normal response from somebody.
Well, I think he meant he was supposed to be picked up by a car, and he wasn't.
Let's talk about the movie theater, okay? All they knew was that a guy went in that theater and didn't buy a ticket.
Random.
Because no, a guy across the street saw him sneak in the side and go in, and he called the police. Now imagine you're the police dispatcher. That's all they know. The president was killed an hour ago. Officer Tippett was killed roughly a half hour ago. You get a call about a guy at the afternoon matinee at the Texas Theater doesn't buy a ticket. Yet what was sent there? 10 squad cars, 24 cops and the news media to film it for a guy who didn't buy a ticket to get in. That's all they knew.
I don't think they ever filmed him coming out of the theater.
Yes, they do.
I never saw that. Yeah.
Oh, I've seen it. They're loading him in. They got cameras, the TVs right there. 10 squad cars and 24 cops for a guy who didn't. Oswald was going there to meet his handler.
Okay, this is good television. Now I'm going to back you up in a certain way. A man that was laughed at, made fun of, and mocked was the medical examiner of Dallas, who chased the car carrying the body. Because at the time Kennedy was shot, the shooting of a president was not a federal crime.
Exactly.
And the medical examiner needed the body because he had to do an autopsy, find out the cause of death.
Texas law.
Okay. He's running, chasing the limo. They're all laughing at him. They made fun of him. Yet I was told by 3 different people, including a former Attorney General of the United States, that that guy was right.
Absolutely.
Because you couldn't have tried Lee Harvey Oswald, because the first person to testify would have been the medical examiner, and he never got to examine the body, which was flown to Washington. Correct?
Yep. Now I'll give you another one.
See, I know this, folks.
The car was a crime scene, correct? The president was murdered in the car?
Correct.
Lyndon Johnson immediately sent the crime scene to Michigan, obstructing justice. Forensic was never allowed to look at the car.
You don't think Johnson was part of the conspiracy, do you?
Absolutely.
You do?
Yep. With the meeting that took place with Clint Murchison, Edgar Hoover, J. Edgar Hoover, his lifetime mistress, Madeline Brown, stated she was there when Johnson came out. He grabbed her hand and said, "After tomorrow, those Kennedy boys will never bother me again." It's all in this book.
I never heard that.
Oh,
Did she testify to the Warren Commission?
No. Nope. Warren Commission didn't want anybody that told a different story.
We'll come down to the final thing on this book.
All right.
Who conspired to kill him?
Well, that's the difficult question in 50 years. Let's just put it this way. Jack Kennedy made a lot of enemies. He made enemies of the military-industrial complex because he would not invade Cuba, which they wanted to do, and he was going to pull us out of Vietnam. So that's 2 wars that Kennedy was going to head off that we weren't going to be part of. That ticked them off. He was going to take away the oil depletion allowance, which is where all these oil guys make their real money, not having to pay taxes, because Kennedy couldn't figure out how a guy like H.L. Hunt could make $30 million a year and not pay any taxes. So he was going to get, so that got the oil people angry at him. He was the first president to bring in civil rights and equality.
But Johnson passed it.
Right, but Kennedy started it all. And so that ticked off the South.
So who killed him?
And he also, after the Bay of Pigs, said he was going to break the CIA into 1,000 pieces, and he fired their top 3 guys, Allen Dulles. So the CIA was pissed at him. Kennedy had more enemies within his administration than he had in the rest of the world or the Soviets. He was actually, do you know he was back-channel communicating with Nikita Khrushchev, and they were going to end the Cold War by 65?
I never heard that.
Oh, reading my book.
I'm going to read it. After the fact, though, anything can come up with a conspiracy. Like, Obama is hated today. He gets more death, right away, a Secret Service guy told me. They get more death threats for Obama than all presidents combined. They deal with it every day. Yeah. So if he's killed, you're going to have a conspiracy of who? You know what I mean? Well, it's so easy to come up with this, Jesse.
Yeah, but when you come up with a patsy like Oswald, Larry, he couldn't make the shots. Impossible. I show in the book, not only could I not do it, we recreated it on my show, and we didn't even have moving target with that piece of junk weapon of his. I couldn't make them. Not only we covered Carlos Hathcock, who is considered the greatest sniper in the United States Marine Corps, the head instructor at the Quantico Marine Sniper School. They reset up the whole thing. He couldn't do it.
I'll tell you
Oswald, when you go into the military, they give you batteries of tests because the military's not stupid.
He was a marksman.
No, he wasn't.
He had a marksman medal.
That's the lowest you can be.
Okay, I got a break. I got to run.
That's the lowest.
I want to tell you one thing, Jesse. There are two truths in life. You are never dull. And two, I can't wait to read this book, and I can't wait till you're part of Aura.
Well, I think you're going to really enjoy the chapter on Dorothy Kilgallen.
I knew her well. Jesse Ventura, the book They Killed Our President. This has been another edition of Politicking with Larry King. I'll see you next time.